Norwegian. He's playing for Arsenal this season. He came back for a good reason. He's Odegaard.
We have to create the right vibe, the energy, and everybody at the organization has to feel so privileged to be here. It's no other way.
Thanks for listening to the Purely Arsenal podcast. Please follow us on Twitter at PurelyArsenalFP for all the latest Arsenal podcasts.
Welcome to a post-North London derby bashing edition of a Purely Arsenal sit-down podcast. I'm joined by two. They're the most regulars that we've had because we've been going almost a decade. Garet was telling me. Garet Kreutziger's back with us. How you doing, Garet?
Happy to be back, man. I feel like I'm always here for the good ones, so long may it last.
I think so, yeah. I think that's true. And that means you'll become even more of a regular. I'm going to drag you back on late nights. And I've also got Neil Shah with me. How you doing, Neil?
Oh, I'm very good. Garet, that means you're going to be on every week, if that's the case. Because
I'm all for
everything. We're winning everything.
Geez, got to pinch myself at the moment.
North London is red, son.
North London, just London. I'm just saying London. I'm liking that. I'm seeing some of the posts from Saliba. He's just cutting out North now. He's saying London. Well, who else are we talking at this point? Mid-table clubs on financial steroids like Chelsea. We can't be talking about them, can we? But it's unbelievable. You've got to pinch yourself a little bit, haven't you, at times? I mean, it's almost halfway through the season. Long way to go, of course. 8 points clear at the top of the league. Just done the double over Tottenham. First time we've won away there since 2014 when Mikel Arteta was in the starting lineup. Garet, what's your thoughts, mate? I was very nervous going into this game, like all derbies. I've said I think we'll nick a draw. And in my head, I convinced myself that would be a very good result considering our record there. But it was a dominant display, despite the little flurry they had for 20 minutes in the second half, Garet.
Mm-hmm. No, it was totally dominant. I felt like this. I felt more confident than I probably should have going in, just knowing the history of the fixture between the two clubs, and kind of the home team gets the 3 points, and that's kind of how it's been as of late. But this club, this team, this manager, this season has put right a lot of wrongs with Liverpool and Chelsea and the results that we've had there, the results that we've been able to pull in Europe, and just, the consistency of which we've been playing and dominating every team that we've played just about this entire season. I felt very confident going in. And I also felt confident because I look at this team and I look at our ability and a lot of the leaders that we have that are on the pitch, the leader that we have as a manager. And the Manchester Derby was right before ours, and the result of that fixture gave us a massive opportunity. And there's something about this unit right now that sees opportunity and seizes it no matter what is right in front of them. And what better opportunity than away at Tottenham to extend our lead at the top of the table by 8 points and essentially put ourselves out of sight from them and in even further away from City. I mean, it's just remarkable.
Yeah, incredible. Neil, opening thoughts. Man, you had beaten Man City earlier. Again, it always feels like with the second game a lot of the times in these weekends, us versus Man City. So it's a real shock and going into it, more pressure maybe. I don't know, but whatever it was, we didn't feel it, Neil.
No, it doesn't matter what we're doing. I mean, you're right. We do tend to be playing behind them, and we're answering it every single time, aren't we? But we've done it all consistently all season. So it doesn't really matter when we're playing and who we're playing. We just get the job done. To beat them twice for the first time since God knows when, 2014 or something, did you say, or whenever it was? No, I don't think we've done the double for even longer.
I don't know what the home score of that season was. I don't know.
Yeah. So it's been.
I think it may have been a draw that season at home. And
then we won away.
It's a long time. So it just shows how the mettle of our team and the attitude of the players, and I've never seen such a dominant first half from any of one side in an North London derby. It was incredible. We were literally all over them. We were dominant. We overloaded them in midfield because of the way they set up, but they gave nothing. And that's I'm not saying that they were bad. I'm just saying we were just too good.
You can say they were bad. They were terrible.
Yeah, but we were just too superior, mate. We're too superior. It's light and day. Boys against men, chasing shadows, and fantastic stuff. And even when they put the pressure on us, we managed it. We managed it very well, and that's the difference in how we've been playing recently to previous years. We've just grown up, and we know what to do to get the job done. And again, answering the questions all the time. We are beating all the teams that they say are going to be winning everything. Shifted power. Tottenham are going to be the next big thing. Done the double over them. So, I'm so happy, so full of confidence. And I have to say, just one quick thing. I won't go into all the details of the players yet, but Odegaard, everyone knows how good he is. I mean, Jack, you love him to bits. He's absolutely superb. But what's standing out for me now is he was even being questioned about, but he doesn't do it in the bigger games and the more important games. Well, he was, again, magnificent. But what makes it more so special, he's actually doing it as a captain now where, we haven't had that for a while. And he's taking that captain's arm job, really down to a T. I don't know whether Shaq has been mentoring him a little bit, but honestly, he's standing up and really showing up as a captain. And look at what he's doing for the whole team. It's just amazing. So I just wanted to give Odegaard that first mention today. But happy.
We'll get back onto him as well. I mean, a tremendous player. I had a quick discussion with my brother earlier, and I said usually PFA player is voted for in January. I expect it's probably February or March because of it's not a normal timing of a season. But I said if Odegaard's not in the top three, I don't know who is, to be honest. Maybe Saka, Haaland, Saka for sure. But he's been, I think he's been incredible throughout. What's the difference in the later weeks where he's getting sort of attention from others and not just us is the goals and assists are there. But if we all remember watching him, I even remember on loan when there was a skepticism about, do we want to go back? I'm not sure it was a successful loan, and there was so much data pointing towards that it wasn't just a successful loan, that you have to go back in towards him. I think he created the most key chances out of everyone in the league, other than De Bruyne, even then, and we just couldn't put any of them away, of course. And we were eighth in the league, and there was so much key data, even then, to be no, we have to go back in for this player. If he's
a player, isn't he?
Oh, he's unbelievable. And initially, Garet, we're on Odegaard, so let's just talk about it. But initially, the comparison, obviously number 10, left-footed from Real Madrid, was to Ozil. And I quickly, as being someone that kind of heard about Odegaard as this wonder kid from Norway early on, when he was bought early on and loaned out many times and stuff like that, after watching him quite a lot on loan and things like that, I think he's very different to Ozil, and I think he's proving every week that he is, and in many good ways, certainly for Arsenal, in terms of his work rate, his humbleness, his ethic, and the way he captains the team. Not that Ozil was the captain, but he's not really a normal number 10 whatsoever, is he, Garet? But no. He was the. I mean, if you're going to talk about anyone, there's probably 5 or 6 that you want to talk about, but Odegaard, I mean, was absolutely technically just brilliant, and he was a brilliant release valve in the second half, I thought, as well as Eddie Nketiah. But Garet, thoughts on Odegaard and what is unbelievable still at 29 million?
Yeah, it's what I think. There's a lot of intangible qualities about Odegaard that you can't quantify statistically, like his leadership, his foresight. It's just a lot of stuff that he does on the pitch that is not a statistic, but he excels at it. He sees past. He's he sees where the ball should be played when someone else has it before it gets to him, to know where the space is going to be. His ability to find space, I think, is the reason why Thomas Partey can play as the lone deep midfielder, because he's always available. I mean, there was actually a period of play early in the game when we were playing it out from the back where it kind of seemed a little dodgy, and then Ramsdale played it, I think, into Partey, and Partey swept it out to Zinchenko. Zinchenko an absolutely phenomenal performance in his own right, and we can talk on him later, but Zinchenko plays a pass cutting back into the midfield without even picking up his head, because I think this team is so dialed in on where they need to be that they know where players are going to be without even having to pick up their head and look for him. And Odegaard is there. He's in the space. He's an absolute pressure relief valve. Next thing you know, his head's up and he carries the ball really well with his feet, which is something I thought that we've missed the last couple seasons, is having players that can be available, get the ball and carry it through the lines, and then, get it out to the dangerous players on the wings. But there's so many examples. I mean, even later on in the game, he's got this magical footwork on the edge of the box where Romero is desperate to get a foot on the ball and he just hacks him down at the knees because he can't even get near it. I mean, it's like Santi Cazorla-esque type of stuff.
That's exactly that. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, carry on.
He's just amazing. And Neil, to touch on your note about Xhaka and kind of his mentorship, I saw this kind of leading up to all the hype into the game and the footage of the players warming up. There's a clip of all the players in, kind of like in our 18-yard box, stretching on the floor, kind of doing some, whatever. They're all warming up together, which I really like to see, all the players stretching and doing everything together. You see Spurs players are all running all over the place. They're very disjointed. You can just tell it's a different level at Arsenal. But Xhaka is there. All the players are tuned in looking at him. And I don't know what he's saying, but he is like shouting very deliberately, very just aggressively. And he's not stopping whatever he's saying for about 30 or 45 seconds. No, I mean, I don't even think he took a break. And I think this role suits him better than the one where he wore the armband, because although he's a great leader, I think the attention that the captain's armband brought to him wasn't one that he wanted. He just needs to be a leader in the role that he is. And Odegaard is just so much more than a player. He's an on-field manager, and there's moments where you see him and Arteta look at each other for like 4 seconds, and all of a sudden the whole shape of the team changes. And it's just, he's so great. And all of and then you bring the actual football into it. And my goodness, a much different player than Mesut Ozil. The only similarity is just where they play in this type of formation. But I just think, his work rate and persistency is just exactly what this team, it embodies what this team is. Absolutely.
Yeah. And they were told, they were told, we saw it against Tottenham in the first game with Thomas Partey's strike that broke the deadlock. We're told that when Tottenham don't have the ball and they can't get the ball back, they don't engage you. They just drop deeper. That's all they do. They just fall back into their box. So what does it tell us? It tells us to take shots because their goalkeeper's dodgy as well. So Odegaard in this game, I mean, he's shooting from everywhere. Partey, bang into the puck. He's shooting. Is it a coincidence? I'm not saying we don't do it anyway, but look how many shots were taken from like 30 yards. They knew that Tottenham were going to just drop off. What do? Just get back in numbers, boys. We'll be okay. And they're not okay. Why? Because we've got players that can ping it top bins from 30 yards. So you're not okay, are you? So you drop back as many players as you like. We're just going to ping it. And it was no coincidence that Odegaard basically had the same shot about 5 minutes prior to that before he pinged that one, which did remind me. I mean, it actually reminded me a lot of Fabregas' one against AC Milan away in the Champions League, where it was just low along the floor from a long way out. And you're like, that's not going in, but it just creeps in the corner. But his performance, the one thing I never thought Odegaard was one, I didn't think he was selfish enough. And the other thing was I felt physically, sometimes in those close proximity positions, like he had second half, he sometimes would get nudged off. But his ability to be strong now and just come through those challenges and body people is incredible, because we've not had a 10 like that. I don't recall us ever having a number 10 like that, really. Bergkamp was a different type of number 10. He was strong. He was definitely strong. But the game has changed so much now in terms of what we require from a 10. But Neil, our dominance in that first half, I mean, do you think we've had a better performance in terms of the first half this season? We were fantastic against Chelsea away. There's obviously been others, but taking into the opposition into account and the type of game,
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I think we have played well in other games. Of course, we have. We've been scintillating. It's been a trademark now of us this season. But because it was a North London derby, that was so pleasurable to see. Because yes, North London derbies, typically the form book does go out the window. It just can be anyone's game, and it can be a weird game. it does tend to be now full of goals. I remember in the olden days when I used to watch it, sometimes used to be a dull 0-0 or 1-0 or something. But now typically there's goals in a North London derby, but it could go either way. But I think it was touched on a podcast before that we have to very seriously consider the form book this time, especially with us, because we are playing some of the best football we've played in years, and the dominance and the way we start so fast. And it was, again, typified in this game. We started fast, we were on the front foot. They as you said, you were just mentioning there, that they seemed to sit back, and we took full advantage of that. And Thomas Partey, oh gosh, we can laud on Odegaard. Garet, what you said about they just seem to know intrinsically where they are. They didn't have to look up. It's also about their off-the-ball movement has been magical this season. All of our off-the-ball movement is fine. And Partey, the way he's stabilising that midfield, which allows Xhaka to do what he does, and the way he's protecting the back four, but he's forward-thinking. He's always forward-thinking as well. That's the delight. And that obviously led to a pass for Saka's first goal. And what a pass, it was great. Saka was onside, but if you remember, he slips. He had a little slip just before delivering that, and he recovers, and that's his strength. He's a powerful unit, and that. If we're talking about concerns, that is a concern. That midfield position needs to be filled desperately, because we don't have anyone like Xhaka or Partey to come into those shoes. We don't. Let's be honest. And we've got lots of games coming thick and fast. So we need to get someone in. So sorry, I digressed a little bit there, but he was magnificent. I mean, that volley, if that had gone in, that was definitely contender of goal of the season, wasn't it? Easily. Jack, you're on mute, by the way.
Sorry,
but
I didn't even see it. Yeah. It was so fast that it just hit the post. I didn't see it. It was
goodness.
Goal rattling and everything.
Yeah.
Do you remember that one? Was it Di Canio scored for West Ham? I mean, that was one of the best volleys. Do you remember that? Yeah. I mean, the execution of this was on levels like that. It was fantastic. What a shame it hit the post. It was a shame. But yeah, his delivery for Saka, and then with the rest of his history, Saka does what he's been doing consistently. He's making those defenders down the line look stupid, because he's just too good. I
don't know why they keep thinking they can show him right. I mean, how many times him and Martinelli both,
correct,
either way, they just keep showing him towards the touchline as if it's going to slow them down. And oh my God, they're just too good. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. And you know what? Sometimes notice Saka might lose it, but he recovers it very, very quickly as well. He's so determined and so strong. God, I don't know what that boy's made out of. He gets kicked about. I've never known a player get kicked about so much, and yet he just seems to just get back on his feet and carry on. And I'm just so pleased that lloris was that was a complete howler by him, but I don't care, because at the end of the day, people keep going on about and highlighting the goalkeeper's mistakes, but we're making those mistakes. We're forcing those mistakes out of them. Give us some credit. And we were superb in that first half. I'm sorry. So to answer your question,
we were terrific. I agree with the credit thing as well. I mean, I see some pundits giving us credit, but a lot, the focus on Mikel Arteta's sideline antics, or even the sort of off the field stuff in this game, I think got overblown. Certainly on our side, when you've got we're the youngest. We're not just top. We're the youngest team in the league, and we're top. This is unprecedented, right? Our front six costs 51 million. The current front three costs 6 million. I mean, I know we've spent money. I'm not acting like we haven't, but in an era where teams are chucking ridiculous amounts of money left, right, and centre, FFP doesn't exist. To do it in this manner is quite, brave, but also it's really quite something to be quite admired, I think. To be honest, I mean, in a similar aspect to what Liverpool, they work financially similar to what we do. Although I didn't really love the way Liverpool played, and they certainly didn't play, football the way we are. But their energy was incredible. But they, there was something to admire that with the likes of Chelsea and City, it's just completely different, But Gary, we've also with so many other players we've got to talk about. But despite the fact that I think it was a dominant display, Aaron Ramsdale was absolutely faultless, Garet. I'd say it's his best performance since the Leicester away game, where he was also unbelievable. You remember where he made that save for Maddison, and he was just incredible. But Ramsdale, I think a lot of people, again, talking about youngest side, he is 24, which is the equivalent to like a 21-year-old on the on the pitch. There's not many 21, 24-year-old top-level goalkeepers at top clubs doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
And the fact he's not England's number one is absolutely laughable. But beyond that, he just showed a World Cup winning goalkeeper who ought to be in his prime at this point. That's how you play in a big game, isn't it, Garet?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, I mean, you look at if you were to just look down at say like at the top 5 or 6 or 10, just to include Chelsea in the mix. You have to really look down there, and looked at all of those guys that are playing between the sticks for them. Like, I don't see a more informed, better goalkeeper in the Premier League than Aaron Ramsdale. He's so immense. He's such a huge character, and he lives up to the moment consistently. Not to say that he's never made an error, because those happen. He will let goals in. It's just part and parcel of being a goalkeeper. But I mean, all Man City goalkeeper, Newcastle, Kepa, Chelsea, I mean, Alisson, like these guys all make pretty massive goal leading mistakes consistently. Like, you see them make howlers like on the highlight reels almost every other week. Not one of them, but amongst them. And Aaron Ramsdale is so mentally dialed in throughout a 90-minute period that you don't see that from him very frequently, if ever. And I think some of like his shithousing is part of that. I think he does it to keep himself mentally engaged, because
it's no coincidence that when he does that, he has his best performances either. Sorry, carry on.
Of course. No, it's totally fine, because the way that we play, I mean, it keeps him involved because he's asked to play with his feet a lot. But it's not like we're recycling it all the way back to the goalkeeper consistently to make sure he's part of the game and that he's dialed in. Like, he's just having it out with the fans behind him, and it keeps him plugged into the game that's going on in front of him. But I totally agree with you. I mean, 24 years old, people were questioning whether or not he was the right decision. I questioned it. I was a big Bernd Leno guy. I thought he was a great goalkeeper for what he was. I didn't foresee a keeper that had been relegated twice as the right answer.
No, I didn't either.
But somebody did. Someone saw who it was. And, what was it? They were all in on Reina, which didn't work out. And
David Raya, right?
Raya, sorry, not Reina.
David, yeah. No, you're right. No, that's a great point, because we're getting into transfers about plan B.
So kind of foreshadowing to where we're getting with that. But someone knows what they're looking at out there. And they saw Aaron Ramsdale and said, this guy's a player, and he could be Arsenal goalkeeper for many, many years to come. And the fact that he didn't represent England this past World Cup is criminal. But I mean, just the saves off the header from Harry Kane, the Sessegnon shot that Ben White shouted him off, which is hilarious. And just so many, the Son save that he made very early in the game, like maybe 13th, 14th minute. I mean, I think there was even a Harry Kane turn where I feel like every other North London derby that's gone in the opposite top corner. But
he parried it, yeah.
Yeah, he just got a big old fist to it. I mean, so many great saves. And what I like about a lot of the saves that he makes is that he doesn't spill them, right? He pushes them off to the side. He either grabs and collects. Like, you never really see him parrying a ball away in the path of danger. And that's just a sign of someone who's well crafted. He knows exactly what he's doing, and we're very lucky to have him, especially considering Hugo Lloris on the other side and all of his antics. So fantastic performance.
Yeah. I mean, he when he saved the Sessegnon one, which is one of the saves of the season, he steps over Sessegnon like a boxer does when they knock someone out. He steps over him who's lying on the floor with his head in his hands. I mean, there's been a lot, but I remember the Jans Lehmann one against Solskjaer where he tipped it around the post, and Solskjaer basically is saying, how can he save that? And I felt like that at that moment, because I was like, I looked away. I thought it was, it just looked like a goal the way they were moving, but The more important ones were those couple of first half ones. The Sun one, because they were so against the run of play. The Kane one on the edge of half time, I think it was like the last seconds. So awkward. It's kind of like hit his forearm.
No, the header that he saved.
Yeah. And that could have changed the momentum of the game when we dominated 45 minutes. But Neil, thoughts on Ramsdale? I mean, you've been a big lover of Ramsdale. I have ever since he's been coming to the first team, in fairness. I just didn't agree. At the time of the signing, I was like, what are we doing here? I didn't realise Mikel Arteta and Edu were absolute geniuses at the time, of course. It took me a while. Forgive me. But Neil, thoughts on Ramsdale?
That's tremendous. I mean, Garet summed him up there. What an attitude, what a player. I love everything about him. You know, I even love just his personality, or even off the pitch. He just gets involved. He's happy to be there. I think that's the biggest component. He's just so happy to be a part of a big club. And that's so important. You see, that's where some of the players in our history have gone missing, where they're doing it. They're like mercenaries. They're doing it for the money. They're doing it for maybe the fame, but we need players who genuinely want to play for the club, the prestige of the club, the class of the club. When we play Spurs, it's class v classless always. I mean, it showed again in a couple of the players.
Yeah. You want to talk to me about the off the field stuff a little bit with Richarlison and just what's your
idiot, and then that orc coming out of the stands, whatever the hell he was, doing what he did. And if you don't mind me touching on that, because I just wanted to speak about his character. You know, the way that Richarlison initially was kind of almost like trying to get a reaction out of Ramsdale, and Ramsdale kept his calm and was trying to walk away. And
how he kept his calm.
He was physical with him, and you know what annoys me. And again, this is where I get a bit passionate. Nothing will happen to Richarlison. You just watch.
They've already said.
They've already said. No, and that is disgusting. If that had been one of our, we're getting chastised for celebrating.
Yeah.
I mean, this is how unbelievably biased and pathetic the FA and everyone is out to get us. Everyone wants to get us points deducted. Everyone wants us not to win the league. And you can see it now so blatantly. But Richarlison is doing something like that, which actually led to a fan doing what he did, putting a player's safety at risk. When I saw that, I don't know if you guys remember, it just reminded me of when Monica Seles on tennis pitch
stabbed in the back,
right?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, this is disgusting. So I think the full letter of the law should be brought on that fan for starters. But I think Richarlison, something should be happening to him as well. And if it had been any one of our players, I can guarantee you they would have been out to get us, because they're out to get us now because they can't touch us for anything at the moment. Oh, they're celebrating too much. Oh, we better find them. I mean, how ridiculous has it got to? But what I wanted to say, sorry, I normally I'll calm down now because
Neil, just to touch on that, I mean, if that instance had happened in between the 90 minutes of the match, Richarlison should have and would have seen a straight red card. And you've seen plenty of instances where stuff's popping off after the full-time whistle, and there are retroactive yellow cards given to managers, red cards given to guys that never even saw the pitch, but they were in part of the squad. I mean, the fact, and if I've missed it, correct me, but the fact that a ban or some type of fine or something hasn't been made public about Richarlison's antics, because you see there's a clip of the field as a whole, and the second the full-time whistle goes, you see Richarlison straight to Aaron Ramsdale just to start shit. And then the rest is a byproduct of that mentality from Richarlison. So, I mean, ultimately, he is held responsible. The stewards were pathetic in the process of protecting the players. I mean, they literally have one job: keep people away from the players, and it's horrible.
It's not nice. They're doing a job, and they should feel safe doing the job. We've come a long way from the olden days. The sport has evolved significantly. Everything it should be about safety first and foremost. And that, in the olden days where, thousands or hundreds of fans used to run onto the pitch and, you could get injuries to players. Yeah, and sometimes it still happens, but it's very rare. And the safety of players is paramount. But that's a deliberate act to try and hurt a player. I mean, you saw him running down on top to go and kick him. It was premeditated almost. And that could have, and another day could have been a knife. It could have been anything.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry, that's just not on. But Richarlison, Garet, you correctly mentioned it was after the whistle and everything, but he was doing it during the game. Didn't he push Ben White earlier and stuff?
He pushed Tommy Asu on the sidelines as well, because Tommy Asu, he knew Richarlison was trying to annoy our throw-in, basically.
He and that Romario, whatever his bloody name is, got away with murder. Absolutely got away with murder.
I've never watched Romero play and not thought he should be sent off. I've never watched him. I've never watched him play. Every game I watch him play, he's just like the Sells from Newcastle, the centre back at Newcastle. They're basically rugby players in football kits. Like, it's unbelievable. Romero, again, by half time, I was thinking Romero probably should have gone. And then he made a few more terrible challenges in the second half. He might end up with a booking. It's incredible what Romero has got away with in English football. I don't know why. But it goes back to the old adage that when Arsenal do well, that generally speaking, the media don't like it. They just don't like it, because, and this all stems back from my era. It stems back to Arsenal being the first foreign club with the first top foreign manager, with the first top foreign all-11 team, and I think it stems all from when I watch it, I'm like, it's never ever going to change. And Spurs have sort of been the media darlings because of Harry Kane and this English core that they supposedly had that never did anything. So then you've just got those two things coming together. But I think you're getting into a dangerous territory there, because like some of the justifications for what Richarlison's did was just ridiculous. I just thought it was unbelievable. Like, some people blaming Mikel Arteta's antics on the sidelines and stuff. I'm like, okay, well, this is just looking for bait for Arsenal fans, I think, because it's just ridiculous.
Richard Keys. Did you hear what Richard Keys?
Yeah, I can't stand the guy. He shouldn't be on TV.
What's that man even doing on TV?
I don't know. I don't know what that's just incredible. Disgusting. But Richarlison was look. Here's a player cost 60 million. He's supposedly the Brazilian number 9, though I don't think he will be under any new coach. And he's never scored a Premier League goal for the club that he's at. He can't get in the team, even though they're playing terribly by all accounts. And he's just frustrated, even walking onto the pitch. He's frustrated. But the best part, I think, was when Martinelli tried to bait him into a handshake, and everyone's going, "Oh, how could they not?" Martinelli knew exactly what he was doing there. He knew he was gonna. He already knows what Richarlison's like. He knew he wasn't going to shake his hand, but he was going to offer it out to him anyway, because it just made him look silly. And I thought that was brilliant by Martinelli. Personally, I thought it was fantastic. But yeah, the off the field stuff shouldn't overshadow it. They probably want it to, but it shouldn't overshadow. It's very ironic that before the game, the pre-game talk was Conte saying, "Oh, you got to respect the officials," and I was like, okay, maybe talk to your players about it, Conte, because you're a match-fixing little moron and your players are worse than you. So talk to your own team about it, and let's not make sort of bold sort of calendar statements before game starts. And he knows what he's trying to do there, little mind games and stuff, but he hasn't got a team for it. The football's outdated. It's fantastic to see. We don't know what they're going to do with their team. They're an absolute mess, which is fantastic. But we went in at half time. Obviously, Saka goal, maybe a little bit fortunate with it, but again, don't show him down the line like you said, Garet. Odegaard's goal, absolute peach. Obviously, that's brilliant football. I think Odegaard's goal was partly really starting it again, wasn't it? It was kind of like he somehow got the ball out wide when it looked like his back was to the goal, and I don't know how he did it, but he released us again. He was fantastic part. I mean, everyone was, but he was fantastic. Another player, Garet, which I think you touched on earlier, who is basically redefining the left back role as I know it, is Zinchenko. I mean, he's probably our best footballer other than Odegaard, and I don't know how many teams can say their best footballer is their left back. I mean, it's just incredible. He's just so comfortable on the ball, and he just turns up anywhere. He's like our free player, and he's left back. It's mental.
It's amazing. He brings so much to this team in terms of control and security that I love Kieran Tierney. I think he's a great traditional left back, but you really see what you have in Zinchenko when he's out there in terms of dominating a game. I think Kieran Tierney has a place in this squad for sure, but when you put him up against Zinchenko and you say, hey, this is how we want to play, he's not capable of doing the same things as Zinchenko is. And it's not a slight on him. Like you said, he's really redefining what a left back could and should be able to do. And I think he is going to be kind of like exhibit A for the rest of the Premier League and the world. When people look at what's Arsenal doing, what are they doing right? And it's that they have an actual footballer of a left back that tucks into midfield. And, it should be said that Gabriel and Saliba are absolute towering units that dominate center forwards and
allow that, yeah,
and allow Zinchenko to play in such a manner. It should not, and Ben White as well. Like the way that they shift in, they tuck in, they communicate really well. It's that whole back five, if you want to count Ramsdale as well, are just absolutely vibing. I mean, they get each other, they allow each other to play with a sense of freedom. And then what that does for everyone moving forward is it's the foundation, and then everyone builds off of that. And it is absolutely fantastic to watch. I mean, Zinchenko should be up there, I think, in the Premier League Team of the Year as the best left back. If it might be recency bias because we just dominated the North London Derby and all this other stuff, but like Zinchenko, I don't know many left backs that are playing better than him in the Premier League. Odegaard is the best attacking midfielder in the Premier League at this moment in time, bar none. De Bruyne is great, but if you were to ask me who are you starting and who are you benching at this moment in time, it's Odegaard. Saka is the best winger in the Premier League. I mean, the list goes on. Thomas Partey is the best holding midfielder in the Premier League. I mean, it's fantastic, and all of this was just built off of a vision from Arteta and Edu, and long may it continue.
Yeah, incredible. I'm so curious to see, because I think there's a real chance we could sell 60 million worth of left backs in the summer if Nuno Tavares and Tierney go, which is very possible. I'm so curious to see if that happens, like who we buy to understudy Zinchenko, because I'm like, there is obviously a player, we'll find them, I'm sure, but there is obviously a player out there that's going to mimic what Zinchenko does, but it's so unique. I mean, I know Man City have Joao Cancelo who does something similar, but he's right-footed for starters, and he plays on both sides, and so it's kind of Zinchenko. His role is very, very unique, and he's such a big game player as well. He's had injuries, and touch wood, he doesn't have anymore. But every time he comes back in a big game, I think he came back after like a month out at Stamford Bridge, and he was just amazing. Just bosses it. You can tell he's played in so many of them, and I can't believe he only started 10 games for Man City last season or something like that. I'm just like, in my head, I'm like, how good can you be?
What's the better part about all of this is that he was our plan B, right? I mean,
yes, another one.
We were
allegedly
all on Martinez, right? Lisandro Martinez. And wow, thank God that didn't work out. I mean, Martinez, I'm sure will be a fine player for United, but I mean, Zinchenko is instrumental. I mean, he's everything, and I think we got through the second half just fine, and dealt with whatever pressure they were able to build up. And, I think that's a sign of the strength of the core of this team, that they could just go to a hostile environment, take whatever they could try and muster up for 20 minutes, and then just dominate the rest of the game, and off you go. See you later, and the scenes with the fan and Richarlison and Arteta trying to hold everybody back. And I thought that was a bit infuriating at first, but then you saw, I think, how it galvanized the entire club and the away fans, and even us watching on the television, and Arsenal Twitter, and I mean, you just see what it meant, and then you watch the team go over, and just, I think it ignited the celebrations from the team 10 times than what they probably planned on doing. I mean, they're jumping around, they're taking their shirts off, they're hanging red and white scarves from the cameras. I mean, they're absolutely staking their claim, not only in the Premier League, but they pretty much just told Tottenham, like, you're our little brothers and you're always going to be that. And this is just my home away from home, pretty much. And that the image of the red and white scarf hanging from the camera is one that should be just put up in the halls of the stadium remodel, because it is iconic and it's fantastic. And I don't think this game, all in all, looking back on it, could have gone any better for Arsenal.
Yeah, we own this place. No, perfect. Yeah, absolutely, Neil. But in that 20-minute flurry, first of all, I want to ask you, Neil. Obviously, it's all positive, but do you have concerns when we had? Because it was, I was definitely nervous at that point, a little bit anxious when, they had some really good chances. The Session one, the Harry Kane one, from distance, and one or two others, where we just felt like we lost a little bit of control in the game. We sat a bit deeper. But first of all, Neil, touch on how good Gabriel and Saliba were in those moments. Well, throughout the whole game, really. Gabriel's ability to just shut Kane down is amazing. But I'm also really impressed by Saliba's ability to work from a deeper position, because I always feel like he's a front-footed defender that likes to play high. But I feel like he's really improving his aerial ability, from crosses, things like that. For such a young centre-back, I think that's really impressive. But do you have concerns, though, as well as talking about them, to concerns about, just maybe losing control for a period of time? So my biggest concern is fatigue, because we can't rotate as much. But Neil, thoughts?
No. I think the one that you just highlighted is the only one, because I mentioned earlier that we got loads of games coming up. Do we have the depth? I mean, I think defensively we were all right, to be fair.
I don't have as much concern yet.
Ben White can fit into that position if something happens to one of those two easily. I mean, he was actually brought in for that anyway. That's the thing. And the way that what Garet said earlier about Zinchenko and Tierney, Tierney was great. I was touting him to be captain at one stage, if you remember. But Zinchenko's come in and just completely redefined that role completely. So what can poor Tierney do? Tierney's great, but you've got someone who's completely on a different planet, literally. So the same with Ben White. He was asked to be in the middle, and then all of a sudden he's moved over there, and he's just excelling. And I think that guy can play in probably any position in the pitch the way he's carrying on. Very much like Saka was in the early days. Remember, he was moved around as a bit of a utility player, Saka, and he was doing the business. Yeah. That's what I love about this squad. You got players that are there not complaining anymore. We had the moaners before, we've got rid of them, and why am I not playing in that position? That's why I play best. We got a team now where they will sit and play where they're told to play, and because they understand the bigger picture. They understand what Arteta's and their dues, mainly Arteta in this case, what his vision is, and they're playing ball, and that's what's great. That Garet, you mentioned it, the unity on and off the pitch is amazing. It's incredible. It's palatable. You can feel it even from watching from a television set. You can feel it. It's just amazing to see. But yeah, Saliba and Gabriel, my only concern is that, and you know what, I'm so pleased. I was so hoping that Saliba was going to have a good game, because he kind of the first couple of games after his World Cup non-show, if you like, he was a little bit off the pace, I thought. And how magnificent he was at the start of the season. He seems to be not being mentioned anymore. We were lauding over him in the first half, how amazing this player is and what he's done at the back. And in fact, if anything, he was probably overshadowing Gabriel right from the start. And now I think once he's had a little bit of a dip, Gabriel's kind of taken over that role, which is what I love. It's almost as if you have a bit of a bad game or a bit of a bad moment, don't worry, I'm there to cover you, and vice versa. And I think we were a bit concerned. You remember that we was mentioned a few of the weaknesses may have been when the ball goes high, and we struggle with that. But now if Saliba is starting to be able to deal with that a little bit better, it's not just Gabriel, both of them can do it. I don't see any problems. There were moments in that game where I was like, oh, don't, please. I've never known a second half to go so damn slow. It's almost as if the clock stopped at times. I was like, hurry up. How long is this second half taking? Yeah, because they did start coming into the game, which is we expected that.
That's what they do throughout the season. Apparently, in the second half they have like a flurry. Yeah. That's what they do.
Yeah, they come alive. But what was remarkable from our players is we managed it. There were dicey moments. There were times where they got to have a shot at goal. But then, of course, we talked about Aaron Ramsdale and how well he's managed that so well. But before they get to him, they've got to contend with Saliba and Gabriel. And I think the two of them are working so well together. It's going to be, that's a defence for a few years, I think. If we can hold on to them, if we can get
Saliba signed up, haven't we?
Saliba's the main concern, yeah.
His comments today were fantastic. Did you read his comments today, Neil? Did you read it?
No, I haven't, to be fair. But I think, Jack, can I be completely honest? I think he's so happy and settled at this club now. I can't see him not signing.
I think the World Cup's got enlighten it a little bit more as well, to be like, well, I'm not just a given to start wherever I go. You know, I know it's the World Cup team, but there's a lot of arguments to say based on form. Saliba should have been starting in that World Cup, to be honest. But he didn't. Not only did he not start, he didn't even play. You know, off the bench. So maybe that brings him back to us and be like, wow, I am really lucky to be not only starting, but starting for such a good team to challenge him for top things. You know, I'm not saying he didn't think that anyway, but sorry. But
No. And the way the fans have received him as well. You know, the songs that they sing, that when they get behind him, if he makes a mistake, you know, there's not many clubs that he'll be able to go to that will give him that, especially if you make a mistake. If you make a mistake, sometimes you know we have had it in the past. Let's not be dishonest about it, but that's because of the fractions in our stupid fan base. But you know, I just feel that the two of them, they're going to be our defense. You know, the way we used to talk about the back four, the famous back four. I think we found it again. We've got it back. And if you breach that, if somehow you breach that, you've got a great keeper in Ramsdale. And it's been years since I've been able to say that famous back four, they were so good. They were so well tuned with each other, all of them, telepathic. I think we've got that back with these four. And even if somehow an attack managed to break that, they had to contend with the likes of Seaman. They had to then contend with the likes of Lehman. And now we can say that about Ramsdale. And you know what? The other thing is, just to touch on him, our number two keeper's looking better and better each time I see him. Matt Turner, he does the job when he's needed to do it. I know it's a different games and when it's sort of at him today,
against Oxford,
but he looks solid, doesn't he? So I've got no problems, and I think the only worry is that the number of games coming up. But I think we can rotate the defence. For me, that concern is more about the midfield, Jack, not so much the defence.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Sorry, Garet, you wanted to add something?
I just was going to say, Neil, the comments essentially from Saliba are, quote, "I am so happy here at Arsenal. The club is speaking with my agent and me on a new contract. The only thing I can do is focus on my football, but I am really so happy here."
Yeah.
Like, what more can you ask for? Honestly.
Do you know what? And obviously we'll get to. I do want to do a 3 or 4 minute transfer segment, not too long that Neil gets annoyed with me, but obviously we are in the transfer window, so we've got to touch on something about it. But when obviously the Mudryk deal fell through and blah blah blah, we don't want to go over it. But one thing that came out from the club sort of hierarchy was if we do this deal to the level that the other club is doing it, what does that say for players that we're trying to sign new contracts to? If we're going to sign a player who's had 40 games at professional level, let's face it, with bags of potential, but literally 40 games, and he's going to be on a bigger wage than the current Saliba, Saka or Martinelli, what does that say for that? It doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit. And I that really sort of settled me. I was like, do you know what? You're absolutely right. It doesn't fit. My brother, initially, when it happened, he went, see, Kroenke won't release. I went, we bid 95. It's nothing to do with Kroenke. I went, this is actual, like, this makes like financial sense. It doesn't make any sense to do that, right? To pay 130 grand a week to a player like that when, you know, he was on 5 grand a week. It's just unbelievable. So I just think that was really, and we've got to get that Saliba contract sorted out. We've got to get the Martinelli and Saka ones, but it feels like all positive sounds currently coming from all of those. So just hopefully just inevitability about just signing on the dotted line with it. But I also think, Neil, it's a great point on Saliba and Gabriel. Gabriel, I feel like has a little bit harder cut out for him because of Zinchenko's role. So put it in the way in this game, I think Kulusevski's their best player. I quite like him. But Gabriel's basically playing that left back role at times defensively. And I think he handled, obviously Kulusevski had his moments, but I think he handled him really well because I think he's one of the most dangerous right wingers in the league. I think I think he's only on loan at Tottenham as well at the moment. So I don't know if what's that, but if he's on loan at Tottenham, he ain't staying there the way they're playing. I mean, they're ruining every attacker they can at the moment, aren't they? Look, so, but Garet, one other player that got a touch on is Eddie Nketiah. I've been a big criticizer of him in the past, but certainly very supportive of him since the end of last season. But I'm seeing things from Eddie Nketiah I just didn't believe I would see. In this game, I felt he mimicked Gabriel Jesus almost to a T. Missed 2 big sitters. We felt that from Gabriel Jesus before. I would say the first one was a big sitter because he was going away from goal. Second one, first touch, let him down a little bit. But his overall play, Garet, I mean, I tell you, I did not see this coming from Eddie Nketiah. Honestly, I've got to reevaluate my footballing ability to evaluate it, because I just didn't see it. I don't know where this football. Some of the touches, Jesus would have been proud of him.
Yeah, I think I don't remember the sequence, but there was a touch that he took. I think it was a ball that was high in the air, and he kind of took it down and played it straight into his stride and got a shot off. It wasn't too threatening, but I think even the commentary was like, "Wow, what a touch that is!" You know, and it kind of took their breath away. And you know, Eddie is, as we know him, doesn't like to touch the ball outside the 6-yard box. You know, he likes to be right in there and just tucking away those clear-cut chances. But I think he's young, he's hungry, he's very physical. Gosh, I saw a picture of him and just the amount of strength and bulk. Like, he's bulked up so much from I think maybe even 2 years ago to this year. He looks like a proper Premier League striker, you know, and I think he sees this opportunity. He knows, hey, if it's not me, it's really no one else. And the club is in such a position where they've invested in him, got the number 14 shirt. I mean, they've pretty much said as much, like, we believe in you. Now it's time for you to repay the faith that we're putting in you as a player. You know, for as long as you've been at this club, we've kept you here, and now we're committed to you to play striker for Arsenal. And you know what? I mean, without Eddie, we would be in some tough going right now because of how light we are on the wings, and how we would have to do some false nines or play guys at a striker that we wouldn't want to. We'd have to be rushing Emil Smith-Rowe back. And I mean, he's really stepped up to the plate, and I thought Eddie ran his freaking socks off against Tottenham. And I don't know if it was the environment or just the moment, the fixture itself, where he was like, you know, I can't not run. I have to run. And it was very reminiscent of Gabriel Jesus. I thought they were going to sub him off after like 50 minutes because I just didn't know if he had any gas in the tank left. But it's fantastic. And he's been playing really well. And I think we have some time before our next match, and he's really gonna need it.
Yeah,
he's got to rest those legs.
I'm trying to. Maybe we brought him off, but if we did, it was the last few minutes. If we did, I can't even recall those last few subs when Smith-Rowe came on and stuff like that. But
yeah, I don't remember.
At that point, I was just counting down the clock. But
yeah,
but yeah, I agree with all your points on Eddie. Neil, is the best sort of compliment to him to say, because some people are saying, well, if Jesus was back tomorrow, which unfortunately is not, and would he come back into the team? I wouldn't go that far, but what I would say is, if Jesus, whenever he does come back, hopefully sooner rather than later, if he comes back and we have 2 games a week, for example, you'd feel comfortable playing Eddie in one and Jesus in the other. And I think that is massive. I mean, if we had 2 Premier League games and we go, you know what, this one's better for Jesus, but that one's going to be better for Eddie. And that would be an amazing second striker to have. And I also think if an England squad was announced tomorrow, I'd be very surprised if wouldn't be surprised because it's Gareth Southgate, but I'd be very surprised if someone with a brain didn't put him in it. And that's, that is also, a credit to him, but it's a real credit to Mikel Arteta as well, isn't it, Neil? I mean, to develop players like this that were a couple of years ago close to going back out on loan to lower league clubs and things like that, it's a real credit to the coaching staff, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, credit to James. He's been backing.
Yeah, he has been backing him.
And
yes.
All of us were like, myself definitely, what are you talking about? You've got to get rid of him. And I love being proved wrong. Do you know what? First and foremost, every player that puts on the Arsenal cannon, I always want the best for them. Of course I do, because I want the best for the club. But sometimes you get to a point where you think, look, he's been given chance after chance, not really doing it. And you can't see another route for them, really. And that's how I felt about Eddie. It wasn't just you, Jack. I saw it as well. And I thought, nah. But Arteta seemed to always be a supporter of him. Do you remember? Even when he wasn't playing as well as we thought he could or he should. And Arteta was, and we're thinking, but Eddie, Arteta loves him. Probably because Arteta saw what, not apart from James, maybe, not many of us could see. And I'm so pleased for him. So happy that he's in a position now where he's got the doubters. He's proved them wrong and he's got them off his back probably now. And yeah, he was unreal. Some of the hold-up play he was doing in that game. Oh my God, I've not seen.
Tracking all the way back, making tackles.
I had to.
Fantastic.
I thought, hang on a minute. If I not got my glasses on, because maybe that is Jesus, maybe he's come back and I didn't know about it. I was like, that is Eddie Nketiah. I thought, what? Hang on a minute. I just, in a way, because I thought he had such a good game, I wish he had managed to convert that. It would have taken us 3-0. Just for him, it was academic in the end that it didn't happen, but it would have been a nice for him to say that he scored in North London derby as well, especially away. It would have been fantastic, a little notch on his, his mark to say I've done that. But I'm so happy that we've got him. I'm so happy that we can have the opportunity to rotate. And I'm with you. Look, I think if Jesus comes back, I want him back now. I want the whole squad there and ready and available. I want Arteta to have massive headaches every single match. And, of course, I think Jesus probably would still get the nod, I think. However, Eddie's up there now. He's very close, if not on that level. And you're right. When he comes back, we can rotate. If we're still in maybe according to me, we will be in 3 competitions still. So,
Well, I was talking again to, I don't know who I was talking to today. I might have just been talking to myself. But I do that a lot with Arsenal at the moment. It's a release valve for my mind at times if I'm just driving or something. But I was thinking what benefit it could really do us, such a thin squad like ours. And we're going to just talk for a couple of minutes about the transfer window. Not being in that first round of the Europa League, Man United have to play Barcelona over a 2-legged affair, and we don't have to play until, is it maybe even early March, late Feb, something like that. And I think that could be really, really valuable for a team like ours, who let's be honest, is really working off a squad of about 13 at this point. If Smith Rowe was back fully and Jesus was there, maybe you could say 15, but it's basically 11 players plus 2 fullbacks. That's basically what we're talking about here. And it's quite incredible what they're doing, but it's not sustainable. And let's get on to the transfer window. So obviously, Neil, you don't sort of involve yourself so much in the transfer window because you don't want to get burnt like I do weekly. But I do every rumour I'm Googling about whether, it's happening. And obviously the Mudryk one I was very invested in. And obviously we lost out there and time will tell. But I don't want to talk about how it happened. It seems very dodgy to me the more you hear about it, from a political standpoint, from a player standpoint, I've never known a player be sold to a team and then the club director of the team that just sold walk out on the pitch with him. It just is shady as hell. And I'm not saying that just because we lost out to him. The more you watch about it, you're just like, okay, I can get why we didn't move on this anymore and trust the club in it. Obviously, there's going to be fans that are like, well, we missed out on Felix, we missed out on Mudryk, now what? And I do think, Garet,
none of those deals made sense. Neither of them.
I agree. I absolutely agree with you. I was willing to go to the fee of the Mudryk deal where we went to, but I obviously didn't have a clue what the wages were that Chelsea were paying and stuff like that. But so in hindsight, I completely agree. But that does bring up the point, Garet, of at the moment it mimicking the feel for fans maybe of last January, where there was a lot of talk about us signing Vlahovic, and then in the end we didn't move off plan A. We did, but not till the summer, and we got Gabriel Jesus. Is the difference here, while we've been mentioning throughout the podcast that plan B for Arsenal have worked out really well, is the difference here maybe that we can't waste this window, so therefore we need to move on to a plan B quickly because we can't not sign anyone. And I'm particularly at this point talking about forward positions and trying to get Martinelli and Saka some rest where we can. I just wondered, Garet, if you agree with that, and if you do, where do you think we might go from here in the next, 13 days left of the window?
I definitely agree with you. The only thing that worries me is that if the past tells the future, the club zero in on their target for January, and if it doesn't work out, then they wait till the summer, because that's where plan B becomes better available for a better price, because supply and demand 101. Everyone recognizes what the team needs, what the need is. They have the supply, they can set what the demand is. So they know that we're light up front. They know that we're chasing a title. They know that we're light and we have 3 competitions. So pay up if you want this guy. And I don't know if the club are in a position. I mean, they showed that they were in a position to make those types of those moves. But my worry now is that you've got a guy that you just said Mudryk's resume. Now every club that's got anyone that's ever done anything is going to say that their guy's worth 100 million euros or 88 million pounds, or, you know, and it just is like the market is going to, I worry, need a reset in the summer, and Chelsea just ruined it for everybody in January, which is very frustrating. But I think there's opportunities out there. I mean, I've been saying it since we went to go sign Nicola Pepe, and I was like, why the hell wouldn't we sign Wilfried Zaha for 60 million? You know, and here he is, I think 6 months left on his contract. Big, physical, fast, imposing, scores goals, knows the Premier League. He lives in London already. I mean, everything makes sense just to bring him over. And I know he's not quite of the age bracket, but he's a guy that I thought we should have signed before when he went to United and failed there. Like, he was someone we should have picked up back when he was at Crystal Palace years ago, the first time around. And that's the profile I think that we need to target. It needs to be somebody 0 adaptation period, knows the Premier League, physical, can play football, you know, like fast and aggressive. And I hope that the club is looking at these options that make sense, and I know they are. I mean, they're all obviously very smart people and very well versed at this, much more than obviously we are. But I think, like, guys in that situation, 6 months left on their deal, clubs are worried that they're going to lose an asset and not make any money on it. Therefore, they're more willing to make a business transaction that makes more sense. I think that's what Plan B in January might need to look like for Arsenal. You know, I mean, that's my 2 cents on it. And I'd like to know your thoughts on it too, Jack. But at the same time, I've had this overwhelming annoyance with the Mudryk thing, and I won't beat it to death too much, but I look at, like, all the Twitter ITKs, like this Fabrizio Romano and all these guys, and I'm trying to understand how these guys get so much information on such highly confidential, high dollar deals and offers that are made to these clubs to make public for so long that it just adds to the problem. And then you get clubs like Chelsea that say, I mean, anybody that has a Twitter account could go on and see that Arsenal and Shakhtar are at a standstill because some guy is leaking the dirty laundry all over the internet. It just seems so criminal to me, and like there's no integrity there. And I'm sure there's some level of legal, it's almost like insider trading. The fact that these clubs can leak this information to guys with huge followings online and create a market for themselves and their players to falsely inflate their value. And now all of a sudden you've got an unrealistic market, and all it's going to do is hurt the game. I mean, straight up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just maybe getting that off my chest, but it's very frustrating, the whole process. And Chelsea and Newcastle and City are just a cancer, if you ask me. But anyways, Jack, I mean, thoughts on where we'll go?
I agree with a lot of almost everything of what you said. The Zaha one, the only thing that throws me with Zaha one is obviously the age profile, which I go back and forth with. Though I agree with you, we probably need, if we're buying in January, in the moment we're buying someone that we believe that can help us for the rest of the season, not just the next 4 years. So I agree with that point. The only other part is I think he's on 130 grand a week, and obviously with his contract coming up, those guys usually get a pretty big bump. So effectively we'd be signing someone that I don't believe would start for us, that would basically be on our top wage or second top wage. I find, again, I'm looking at our plan from a bird's eye view. I don't know anything, but I wonder if that, you know, the chemistry, the harmony, does that affect it? If we're going that route, and I think there's only 2 routes we go now, and Neil, just, I know you don't want to mention names, but you might want to mention, like, how important it is for the transfer window. I think the big money deal in January is extremely unlikely now. I think reason being is we evaluate those players so much, and we can't make errors. We can't make the Pepe error again because it costs us for too long. He's still on our books, for example. We've not signed a winger for money since that deal. So, you know, we can't do what Chelsea do and sign 2 in a week or whatever. So I just think unless we've really gone, if it's not this guy, boom, we shift the money into that guy because they're so close, which I think is unlikely. I think we do go for the option that you're saying, which is a cheaper option, likely someone that has 0% adaptation, or a cheaper option that is a long-term plan. The names that have been talked about, Zaha, I think the Trossard one's one to watch as well from Brighton. But he's a very different player. He's 28. That concerns me a little bit. But he has the ability to kind of move around the front three a little bit, Trossard. I think he's even played at false 9 for Brighton at times. And he's quite a good technical player. I think that's possibly one. The other ones that I'd look at for a sort of cheaper deal were Facundo Torres, the one that was being mentioned from the MLS. I don't know a lot about him, but I presume it would be a much cheaper deal. And I think he went to Uruguay's World Cup squad as well. But I think we have to sign. I know Smith Rowe's coming back because his fitness is so up in the air, and I think we have to sign a forward-thinking player that has output. So I think Zaha, Trossard, possibly one of these sort of younger, less known players that are coming in for a cheaper price, where clubs, maybe their contract's coming up in the next 18 months, those kind of players. I think that's the way it's going to have to go. I struggle to think. I think there's still a slight chance we don't sign anyone, which I think is unforgivable at this point in this window. I just think we have to do something, even if it doesn't financially cost us too much and it's a cheaper deal, to get someone in, because when you look at our bench, it's just so paper thin. So we have to do something, but I'm just not sure which. I don't know, Neil. What's your thoughts? Do you think would you shift that money into signing a replacement for Thomas Partey this window, or getting another? We've been linked to another fullback, for example, which I find quite interesting in Valladolid. Fullback in Spain, which we've been linked to, but. For me, I still want to buy the winger type player, but I don't know, Neil. Where do you think we go from here? Because it does feel like we're going to have to shift, and we haven't got much time to shift. At least we've got a couple of weeks. It's not the last day of the transfer window. We've got time in that sense. But Chelsea have ruined the market, just like Man Utd did in the summer with buying a fidget spinner for 90 million. But Neil, what's your thoughts?
I think Garet was absolutely fantastic the way he said what he just said there. Brilliantly.
Spot on, yeah.
Summed up about how it's going to affect the market and how almost criminal it feels what these clubs are doing. It's unbelievable. I mean, it is going to have a sour effect on the market for sure, especially in the summer, I feel. But yeah, I mean, we are definitely paper thin. Even though I have to admit that, Mr. Positive, it is so concerning that it only takes a couple of players and it completely imbalances that squad or that first team, because they're so in tune with each other, as we spoke about earlier. So in tune. 2 players out could be detrimental to us and our aspirations.
I mean, you really see the difference, like when in the Oxford game, like when we rotate,
massively,
how out of touch it is. You really see it.
Massively. Central midfield there really worried me, but go on.
That's why this. But the other thing is, I wouldn't want, and I don't think they will, but I don't want a panic buy situation. I think Arteta's smart enough not to do that. We have in the past tended to panic buy because of the pressure heaped on the club. And there was that one crazy window in the last couple of days. We bought about 5 players, if I remember rightly. But I don't want a situation like that. But at the same time, we certainly do need someone in. I know you're absolutely correct, Jack, about the forward and the winger and getting a position up there for sure, because Saka and Martinelli have been run ragged. 100% agree with you. And you know what, Garet? Zaha is almost the perfect fit. But what worries me is what Jack was saying. The same way we didn't want Mudryk to come in and imbalance. It's not fair. But he gets paid all of that, and then you've got all these players being doing so well on a much lower wage. It's going to affect some. As a human being, you're going to be affected. And the last thing we want to do is disrupt what we have built brilliantly, or has been brilliantly built up within this squad. We don't want to disrupt any of that. We want to keep it as it is. And Mudryk would have been destructive, I think. As a player, probably would have been fantastic to have. But from a player point of view, he's coming on like 15 times the wage I'm on. Nah. So Zaha again, and is someone like Zaha going to be happy to play second fiddle? I'm not so sure, because he'd want to play first team football, I would have thought. So it's a really difficult conundrum.
Tough one.
But I think, yes, I think we definitely need someone in the midfield for sure, Jack, because I'm so worried about the Party Stroke Xhaka.
I don't think we do anything in midfield, Neil. I'll be
I
really
don't think we will do it. I don't think
Yeah.
we will. I think that it's all going to be in summer.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that where it should be is that position, and yeah, definitely someone up front. Those two are key, because as I said earlier, defensively we're fine.
Yeah, just to play devil's advocate a little bit, there's no guarantees in the summer, right? You've got two clubs in the league that are likely going to be taken over by even richer owners in Liverpool, Man United, possibly by Qatar, you know, the countrywide clubs like Newcastle. So we could have four. We could be the only one in the top six without it. So then what does that do to this? Basically, what I'm trying to say, I think what Mikel Arteta also might be saying, because I'm sure he wants to spend the money if he can, is something like that. I mean, I basically, after the Madrid deal went dead, I looked at every link we have over the last 12 months, and I just was watching comps of them for a little bit. So I spent about an hour doing it. I'd go Moussa Diaby from Leverkusen all day. I think he's really good. He almost mimics what Madrid does, but from the other side. But he's more technical, left-footed, really good. His output's way better, but he's got a better track record. So they're going to ask for minimum what they've asked for Madrid.
Exactly.
And the only possibility there is the fee didn't really matter to us. It was, well, it did a little bit, but the wage really and the structure of the fee. So it depends what Leverkusen would want, or even if that's a possibility. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you both. I think we have to, we can't waste this window. We need one minimum. It has to be one minimum.
You know what it kind of reminds me of is, was it 2015, 2016 when Leicester won the league? Was it? And then the summer before, we pushed on and we had I can't remember what we finished in the year prior, but we were one player away, and all we did was sign Petr Cech in the summer.
Yep.
And then we just dropped our chance to win the league. I mean, we were top in Leicester, and all the other teams were crap, and then we were right there second. I'll never forget, it was the Danny Welbeck header. And I mean, I was convinced that we were going to win the league that season, right? But we just didn't have enough. And it was because we didn't strengthen the team when we had to. And this is another, these opportunities don't come very often. Thankfully for Arsenal, that it's frequent enough to where you can recognize it. But man, everyone in that front office must realize the urgency.
Yeah,
you're right, Jack. Nothing's a guarantee. There's no guarantee that we'll be 8 points clear halfway through the season next season. You don't know what's going to happen. I mean,
no, and we don't know who we're after, but there's no guarantee that these fees 6 months later, they're not just going, yeah, well, we want 100 million for him. Actually, you know what? Man Utd just offered 120 million for an English 17-year-old, so we want 100. Because the money is going so crazy, it's unsustainable, like you said, Garet. But because at some point we're going to have to bite the bullet and decide we're gonna break Pepe's transfer and not be held down by the fact that Pepe's didn't work, so therefore the others won't work, because Pepe's didn't work because we had Raul Sanllehi and Unai Emery, and these guys weren't the future of the football club. Now we've got a director and a manager, so if they want someone, we got to do it. We got to do it, And I don't care if it's 10 million or 80 million. If it's the right player, we can't waste it in this window like we did last Jan. Though it worked out in the summer, it cost us in the short term, and the short term right now is really important. I'm seeing links about Declan Rice that I do not care about the summer. I don't care one bit about if Declan Rice ends up at Chelsea. I don't care. It's nothing to do with the summer. It's about now, right now, short term. Let's try to get one in, because we need him help. We don't want to put too much pressure on Smith Rowe, because being out for a long time. We need to get that front three some help. They deserve it. They deserve the help. I think Mikel Arteta deserves the help. And I think the board want to back him. I just think we've got to be quiet. We've got to do a Fabio Vieira, Tomiyasu type deal where no one heard about it and 24 hours later it was done. We have to do a deal like that. We can't be doing all this public bidding wars, because we don't get into them. It never ever, the plan never ends up with us.
Never works out.
Do it. No. And I don't know. I mean, we've got Man U, and then I've not looked beyond that, but I really don't want this whatever one transfer that I hope we get going down to the last couple of days of the transfer window, because then you do feel like it might be panic stations. But again, we don't know.
City, Jack.
Is it United and then City? Is that the cup game, City?
FA Cup, yeah.
FA Cup, Jesus. Okay, well, let's get on to that. The predictions for Man U at home. They had a massive win against Man City that if you were watching the game, to be honest, very much like the game we played at Old Trafford, you didn't see it coming. Well, obviously they were 1-0 up against us, so it's a little bit different, but in terms of the play, Man City were dominating the play. I feel like they're a similar team to Tottenham in terms of the fact that they do like to counter-attack quite a lot, but they're far more effective at it. They've got a better defence, they've got better players going forward in terms of speed and quality, in terms of like Rashford. And obviously we've lost to them already this season, so Garet, let's get your predictions. Arsenal, Man U at home. Massive game, mate. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, massive game. It's just hard to doubt this team right now. I think they're playing with such fluidity and such togetherness that I would put us up against anybody in the world and I would be nervous, but I would feel confident in their ability to come out of it. And I don't think we can keep another clean sheet like we did against Spurs, because I do agree with you. I think United are much more lethal. Marcus Rashford, I think, is just on a tear right now, the way he's playing, and he's playing very well. And everyone else they've got, I hate that little dodgy bastard in the midfield. What's his name? Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good, but I hate him. Maybe he'll miss a penalty or two. But I think we win 3-1, and I think we just keep on keeping on.
Win 3-1. I'll take that. I think that was the score last season, 3-1. I think. Was it when Xhaka scored the screamer from distance? I want to say.
Yeah, that's right.
I think it was. Yeah. Neil, predictions. They do have to play a midweek against Palace. Palace are dreadful at the moment, so I'm not really holding out for anything other than the fact that it's another game. Hopefully they play first 11. Hopefully Casemiro gets booked because he'd be bad. But Patrick Vieira, you know what to do. Okay. Neil, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, annoyingly they've hit form, haven't they? Annoyingly,
they are,
and it's almost like a throwback to the best rivalry ever in the Premiership: Arsenal, Man United, Ferguson, we Wenger, of course. And I'd take that. I'd want to be back up there in the echelons, playing those kind of classic games. I think they are very, very good. Garet, correct. Rashford is lethal at the moment and is a worry. But do you know what? I'm going to stay as I have all season. That we're going to win. We're going to keep this momentum going. And although it'll be a difficult game, I think we'll come up on top, and I think we'll reverse the score at Old Trafford. So I agree.
Well.
3-1. Yeah, I think so.
First score, Garet. We like to do first scores on this sometimes.
Martinelli.
Neil.
Man of the match.
I love it.
Man of the match, Martinelli as well. Wow.
Oh, okay. I love that. I'm gonna say Saliba.
Header or a little left-footed ping into the top.
Oh no, maybe like the worldie scored the other time.
Yeah,
no, I think it may be from a corner or something. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to say Saliba.
Yeah. I'll go. It's gonna be a tough one, isn't it? I'll go 2-1 Arsenal. And I'll say first score Eddie. Go Eddie. First score. Yeah. It'd be good to see him go in a big game.
He deserves a goal. So.
Yeah. He deserved that one against Newcastle as well. The anti-foot. They're doing very well as well. But when I watch Newcastle, they're quite a negative team, which is odd to watch Newcastle, because even when they were quite good back in the 90s, they were a very attacking team. So it's very odd to watch. But boys, it's been fantastic. Sorry if I kept you too long. I know you got work and sleep and we've all got to do that. But hopefully we'll be back on after Man U game with another 3 points and hopefully extending our league at the top or maintaining our lead at the top. That'd be amazing. We're on @Purely Arsenal FP on Twitter, Purely Arsenal on YouTube. We were voted by someone who I'll shout out on Twitter as top 10, one of the top 10 Arsenal podcasts.
10th
so we appreciate that. 10th place, we'll take that. I mean, if Chelsea are taking it with 500 million spent, we'll take it. So what do you do? Chelsea spending 500 million to finish in 10th. Maybe they'll get the Europa Conference League. Jesus Christ!
I'd love my 8.5-year contract, Jack. Please.
Yeah. Okay, boys. But Garet, Neil, thank you so much. And we'll stop recording here. Keep the Arsenal going. Keep up the Arsenal. Stay positive, boys.